Shopaholic ties the knot. 5. I arrive at La Goulou at 1 o'clock on the dot, but Eleanor isn't there yet. I'm shown to a table and sip my mineral water while I wait for her. The place is busy. It always is at this time. Mostly with smartly dressed women. All around me is chatter and the gleam of expensive teeth and jewels, and I take the opportunity to eavesdrop shamelessly. At the table next to mine, a woman wearing heavy eyeliner and an enormous brooch is saying emphatically, "You simply cannot furnish an apartment these days under $100,000. So I said to Edgar, "I'm a human being," says a red-haired girl on my other side. Her friend chews on a celery stick and looks at her with bright, avid eyes. So what did he say? 1 room? You're talking 30,000. He said, "Hillary, Rebecca." I look up, a bit annoyed to miss what Edgar said, to see Eleanor approaching the table, wearing a cream jacket with large black buttons and carrying a matching clutch bag. To my surprise, she's not alone. A woman with a shiny chestnut bob, wearing a navy blue suit and holding a large coach bag is with her. "Rebecca, may I present Robin de Bendern," says Eleanor, "one of New York's finest wedding planners." "Oh," I say, taken aback. "Well, hello." "Rebecca," says Robin, taking both my hands and gazing intently into my eyes. "We meet at last. I'm so delighted to meet you, so delighted." "Me too," I say, trying to match her vivacity while simultaneously racking my brain. "Did Eleanor mention meeting a wedding planner? Am I supposed to know about this?" "Such a pretty face," says Robin, without letting go of my hands. She's taking in every inch of me, and I find myself reciprocating. She looks in her 40s, immaculately made up with bright hazel eyes, sharp cheekbones, and a wide smile exposing a row of immaculate teeth. Her air of enthusiasm is infectious, but her eyes are appraising as she takes a step back and sweeps over the rest of me. "Such a young, fresh look. My dear, you'll make a stunning bride. Do you know yet what dress you'll be wearing on the day?" A wedding dress," I say stupidly, and Robin bursts into peals of laughter. "That humor," she cries, "you British girls." "You were quite right," she adds to Eleanor, who gives a gracious nod. "Eleanor was right? What about? Have they been talking about me?" "Thanks," I say, trying to take an unobtrusive step backward. "Shall we?" I nod toward the table. "Let's," says Robin, as though I made the most genius suggestion she's ever heard. "Let's do that." As she sits down, I notice she's wearing a brooch of 2 intertwined wedding rings, encrusted with diamonds. "You like this?" says Robin. "The Gilbrooks gave it to me after I planned their daughter's wedding. Now that was a drama. Poor Biddy Gilbrook's nail broke at the last minute, and we had to fly her manicurist in by helicopter." She pauses as though lost in memories, then snaps to. "So, Rebecca," she beams at me, and I can't help beaming back. Lucky, lucky girl. "Tell me, are you enjoying every moment?" "Well, what I always say is, the first week after you're engaged is the most precious time of all. You have to savor it." Actually, it's been a couple of weeks now. "Savor it," says Robin, lifting a finger. "Wallow in it. What I always say is, no one else can have those memories for you." "Well, okay," I say with a grin. "I'll wallow in it." Before we start, says Eleanor, I must give you one of these. She reaches into her bag and puts an invitation down on the table. What's this? Mrs. Eleanor Sherman requests the pleasure of your company. Wow, Eleanor is holding an engagement party for us. Gosh, I look up. Well, thanks. I didn't know we were having an engagement party. I discussed the matter with Luke. Really, he never mentioned it to me. It must have slipped his mind. Eleanor gives me a cold, gracious smile. I will have a stack of these delivered to your apartment, and you can invite some friends of your own, say 10. Well, thanks. Now, shall we have some champagne to celebrate? What a lovely idea, says Robin. What I always say is, if you can't celebrate a wedding, what can you celebrate? She gives me a twinkling smile, and I smile back. I'm warming to this woman, but I still don't know what she's doing here. I was just wondering, Robin, I say hesitantly, are you here in a professional capacity? Oh, no. No. Robin shakes her head. It's not a profession, it's a calling. The hours I put in, the sheer love I put into my job. Right. I glance uncertainly at Eleanor. Well, the thing is, I'm not sure I'm going to need any help, although it is very kind of you. No help? Robin throws back her head and peals with laughter. You're not going to need any help. Please. Do you know how much organization a wedding takes? Well, have you ever done it before? No, but a lot of girls think your way, says Robin, nodding. Do you know who those girls are? They're the girls who end up weeping into their wedding cake because they're too stressed out to enjoy the fun. Do you want to be those girls? No, I say in alarm. Right, of course you don't. She sits back, looking like a teacher whose class has finally cracked 2 + 2. Rebecca, I will take that strain off you. I will take on the headaches, the hard work, the sheer stress of the situation. Here's the champagne. Maybe she has got a point, I think, as a waiter pours champagne into 3 flutes. Maybe it would be a good idea to get a little extra help. Although how exactly she'll coordinate with Mom. I will become your best friend, Becky, Robin's saying, beaming at me. By the time of your wedding, I'll know you better than your best friend does. People call my methods unorthodox. They say I get too close, but when they see the results... Robin is unparalleled in this city, says Eleanor, taking a sip of champagne, and Robin gives a modest smile. So, let's start with the basics, she says, and takes out a large, leather-bound notebook. The wedding's on June 22nd. Yes. Rebecca and Luke. Yes. At the Plaza Hotel. What? I stare at her. No, that's not. I'm taking it that both the ceremony and reception will take place there. She looks up at Eleanor. I think so, says Eleanor, nodding. Much easier that way. Excuse me, so the ceremony in the terrace room? She scribbles for a moment. And then the reception in the ballroom. Lovely. And how many? Wait a minute, I say, planting a hand on her notebook. What are you talking about? Your wedding, says Eleanor, to my son. At the Plaza Hotel, says Robin with a beam. I don't need to tell you how lucky you are, getting the date you wanted. Luckily, it was a client of mine who made the cancellation, so I was able to snap it right up for you then and there. I'm not getting married at the Plaza Hotel. Robin looked sharply at Eleanor, concern creasing her brow. I thought you'd spoken to John Ferguson. I have, replies Eleanor crisply. I spoke with him yesterday. Good, because, as you know, we're on a very tight schedule. A Plaza wedding in less than 5 months? There are some wedding planners who would simply say, impossible. I am not that wedding planner. I did a wedding once in 3 days. 3 days. Of course, that was on a beach, so it was a little different. What do you mean the Plaza's booked? I turn in my chair. Eleanor, we're getting married in Oxshott. You know we are. Oxshott? Robin wrinkles her brow. I don't know it. Is it upstate? Some provisional arrangements have been made, says Eleanor dismissively. They can easily be cancelled. They're not provisional. I stare at Eleanor in fury. And they can't be cancelled. You know, I sense some tension here, says Robin brightly. So I'll just go make a few calls. She picks up her mobile and moves off to the side of the restaurant, and Eleanor and I are left glaring at each other. I take a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Eleanor, I'm not getting married in New York. I'm getting married at home. Mom's already started organizing it. You know she has. You're not getting married in some unknown backyard in England, says Eleanor crisply. Do you know who Luke is? Do you know who I am? What's that got to do with anything? For someone with a modicum of intelligence, you're very naive. Eleanor takes a sip of champagne. This is the most important social event in all our lives. It must be done properly, lavishly. The Plaza is unsurpassed for weddings. You must be aware of that. But Mom's already started planning. Then she can stop planning. Rebecca, your mother will be grateful to have the wedding taken off her hands. It goes without saying I will fund the entire event. She can attend as a guest. She won't want to attend as some guest. It's her daughter's wedding. She wants to be the hostess. She wants to organize it. So, a cheerful voice interrupts us. Are we resolved? Robin appears back at the table, putting her mobile away. I've booked an appointment for us to see the terrace room after lunch, says Eleanor frostily. I would be glad if you would at least be courteous enough to come and view it with us. I stare at her mutinously, tempted to throw down my napkin and say, no way. I can't believe Luke knows anything about this. In fact, I feel like bringing him up right now, telling him exactly what I think. But then I remember he's at a board lunch. And I also remember him asking me to give his mother a chance. Well, fine, I'll give her a chance. I'll go along and see the room and walk around and nod politely and say nothing. And then tonight, I'll tell her equally politely that I'm still getting married in Oxshott. All right, I say at last. Good. Eleanor's mouth moves a few millimeters. Shall we order? Throughout lunch, Eleanor and Robin talk about all the New York weddings they've ever been to, and I eat my food silently, resisting their attempts to draw me into the conversation. Outwardly, I'm calm, but inside I can't stop seething. How dare Eleanor try and take over? How dare she just hire a wedding planner without even consulting me? How dare she call Mom's garden an unknown backyard? She's just an interfering cow. And if she thinks I'm going to get married in some huge anonymous New York hotel instead of at home with all my friends and family, she can just think again. We finish lunch and decline coffee and head outside. It's a brisk, breezy day with clouds scudding along the blue sky. As we walk toward the plaza, Robin smiles at me. I can understand if you're a little tense. It can be very stressful planning a New York wedding. Some of my clients get very wound up, shall we say. I'm not planning a New York wedding, I want to yell. I'm planning an Akshat wedding. But instead, I just smile and say, I suppose. I have one client in particular who's really quite demanding, Robin exhales sharply. But as I say, it is a stressful business. Here we are. Isn't it an impressive sight? As I look up at the opulent facade of the plaza, I grudgingly have to admit it looks pretty good. It stretches up above Plaza Square like a wedding cake, with flags flying above a grand porticoed entrance. Have you been to a wedding here before? Asks Robin. No, I've never been inside at all. Well, in we go, says Robin, ushering Eleanor and me up the steps, past uniformed porters, through a revolving door, and into an enormous reception hall with a high ornate ceiling, a marble floor, and huge gilded pillars. Directly in front of us is a light, bright area filled with palms and trellises where people are drinking coffee and a harp is playing, and waiters in gray uniforms are hurrying around with silver coffee pots. I suppose, if I'm honest, this is quite impressive too. Along here, says Robin, taking my arm and leading us to a cordoned-off staircase. She unclasps a heavy rope cordon, and we head up a grand staircase and through another vast marble hall. Everywhere I look are ornate carvings, antiques, wall hangings, the hugest chandeliers I've ever seen. This is Mr. Ferguson, the executive director of catering. Out of nowhere, a dapper man in a jacket has appeared. He shakes my hand and beams at me. Welcome to the plaza, Rebecca. And may I say, you've made a very wise choice. There's nothing in the world like a plaza wedding. Right, I say politely. Well, it seems a very nice hotel. Whatever your fantasy, whatever your cherished dream, we'll do everything we can to create it for you. Isn't that right, Robin? That's right, says Robin fondly. You simply couldn't be in better hands. Shall we go and look at the terrace room first? Mr. Ferguson's eyes twinkle. This is the room where the ceremony will take place. I think you'll like it. We sweep back through the vast marble hall, and he opens a pair of double doors, and we walk into an enormous room, surrounded by a white balustraded terrace. At one end is a marble fountain. At the other steps up to a raised area. Everywhere I look, people are scurrying around, arranging flowers and draping chiffon, and placing gilt chairs and angled rows on the richly patterned carpet. Wow, this is actually quite nice. Oh, sod it, it's amazing. You're in luck, says Mr. Ferguson with a beam. We have a wedding on Saturday, so you can see the room in action, as it were. Nice flowers, says Robin politely, then leans toward me and whispers, we'll have something far more special than these. More special than these? They're the hugest, most spectacular flower arrangements I've ever seen in my life. cascading roses and tulips and lilies and... Are those orchids? So, you'll come in through these double doors, says Robin, leading me along the terrace. And then the bugles will play, or trumpets, whatever you wish. You'll pause in front of the grotto, arrange your train, have some photographs, and then the string orchestra will begin. String orchestra, I echo dazedly. I've spoken to the New York Phil, she adds to Eleanor. They're checking their tour schedule, so fingers crossed. The New York Phil? The bride on Saturday is having 7 harpists, says Mr. Ferguson, and a soprano soloist from the Met. Robin and Eleanor look at each other. Now that's an idea, says Robin, and reaches for her notebook. I'll get onto it. Shall we go and look at the Baroque room now, suggests Mr. Ferguson, and leads us to a large old-fashioned elevator. The night before the wedding, you'll probably want to take a suite upstairs and enjoy the spa facilities, he says pleasantly as we travel upward. Then on the day, you can bring in your own professional hair and makeup people, he smiles. But I expect you've already thought of that. My mind flicks madly back to Janice and Radiant Spring Bride. Kind of. The guests will be served cocktails as they pass along the corridor, explains Robin as we leave the elevator. Then, this is the Baroque room where hors d'oeuvres will be served before we go into the grand ballroom. Expect you haven't even given hors d'oeuvres a thought yet. Well, I'm about to say that everyone likes mini sausages. But, for example, she continues, you could consider a caviar bar, an oyster bar, a Mediterranean mezze table, sushi, perhaps. Right, I gulped. That sounds good. And, of course, the space itself can be themed however you like. She gestures around the room. We can transform it into a Venetian carnival, a Japanese garden, a medieval banqueting hall, wherever your imagination takes you. And then into the grand ballroom for the main reception, says Mr. Ferguson cheerfully. He throws open a pair of double doors and, oh my gosh, this room is the most spectacular of all. It's all white and gold, with a high ceiling and theatrical boxes, and tables set around the vast, polished dance floor. That's where you and Luke will lead the dancing, says Robin, with a happy sigh. I always say that's the moment of a wedding I love the most, the first dance. I gaze at the shining floor and have a sudden vision of Luke and me, whirling round among the candlelight and everyone looking on, and 7 harps, and the New York Phil, and caviar, and oysters, and cocktails. Rebecca, are you all right? Says Mr. Ferguson, suddenly seeing my expression. I think she's a little overwhelmed, says Robin with a little laugh. It's a lot to take in, isn't it? Well, yes, I suppose so. I take a deep breath and turn away for a moment. Okay, let's not get carried away. This may all be very glitzy, but I am not going to be swayed by any of it. I've decided I'm going to get married in England, and that's what I'm going to do. End of story. Except, just look at it all. Come and sit down, says Robin, patting a gilt chair beside her. Now, I know from your point of view, it still seems far off, but we're on a pretty tight schedule, so I just wanted to talk to you about your overall view of the wedding. What's your fantasy? What for you is the image of pure romance? A lot of my clients say Scarlet and Red or Fred and Ginger. She looks at me with sparkling eyes, her pen poised expectantly over the page. This has gone far enough. I have to tell this woman that none of this is actually going to happen. Come on, Becky, get back to reality. Yes. I've always loved the end of Sleeping Beauty, when they dance together, I hear myself saying. The ballet, says Eleanor approvingly. No, actually, I meant the Disney film. Oh. Robin looks momentarily puzzled. I'll have to catch that again. Well, I'm sure that will be inspirational too. She starts writing in her book, and I bite my inner lip. I have to call a halt to all this. Come on, say something. For some reason, my mouth stays closed. I look around, taking in the molded ceiling, the gilding, the twinkling chandeliers. Robin follows my gaze and smiles at me. Becky, you know you're a very lucky girl. She squeezes my arm affectionately. We're going to have so much fun. And then the chapter ends with some letters. The first one is from House of Lords Appointments Commission nomination form. Please summarize here why you are suitable for recommendation as a non-party political peer and how you personally would make an effective contribution to the work of the House of Lords. Please support this with a CV, clearly showing your major achievements and highlighting relevant skills and experience. Application to be a life peer. Name, Rebecca Bloomwood. Address, Apartment B, 251 West 11th Street, New York, New York, 10014. Preferred title, Baroness Rebecca Bloomwood of Harvey Nichols. Major achievements, patriotism. I have served Great Britain for many years, bolstering the economy through the medium of retail. Trade relations. Since living in New York, I have promoted international trade between Britain and America, e.g., I always buy imported Twinings tea and Marmite. Public speaking. I have appeared on television chairing debates on current affairs, parentheses, in the world of fashion, close parentheses. Cultural expertise. I am a collector of antiques and fine art, most notably 1930s cocktail cabinets and barware. Personal contribution if appointed. As a new member of the House of Lords, I would personally be very willing to take on the role of fashion consultant, an area hitherto neglected, yet vital to the very lifeblood of democracy. And then the next letter from Second Union Bank, 53 Wall Street, New York, New York, 10005. Dated February 21st, 2002. Miss Rebecca Bloomwood, Apartment B, 251 West 11th Street, New York, New York, 10014. Dear Miss Bloomwood, thank you for your letter of February 20. I am afraid I could not comment on whether or not a skirt is a household expense. Yours sincerely, Walt Pittman, Director of Customer Relations. Chapter 6. I'm not going to get married in New York. Of course I'm not. It's unthinkable. I'm going to get married at home, just like I planned, with a nice marquee in the garden. There's absolutely no reason to change my plans. None at all. Except it would be amazing. Walking down that aisle in front of 400 people to the sound of a string orchestra with amazing flower arrangements everywhere. having the huge, dreamy Lady Di wedding I always fantasized about, but thought was beyond my grasp. I mean, it'd be Becky's big day come to life. Then we'd all sit down to some incredible dinner. Robin gave me some sample dinner menus, and the food. Rosace, Rosace, of Maine lobster, val consomme with quenelles of pheasant, wild rice with pignoli nuts. I know Akshat and Ashted quality caterers are good, but I'm not sure they even know what a pignoli nut is. Parentheses, to be honest, I don't know either, but that's not the point. Close parentheses. And maybe Eleanor's right. Mom would be grateful if we took the whole thing off her hands. Yes, maybe she's finding the organization more of a strain than she's letting on. Maybe she's already wishing she hadn't volunteered to do the whole thing. Whereas if we get married at the plaza, she won't have to do anything, just turn up. Plus, Mom and Dad wouldn't have to pay for a thing. I mean, it would be doing them a favor. So as I'm walking back to Barney's, I take out my mobile and dial the number for home. As Mom answers, I can hear the closing music of Crime Watch in the background, and I suddenly feel a wave of nostalgia for home. I can just imagine Mom and Dad sitting there with the curtains drawn and the gas effect fire flickering cozily. "Hi, Mom." "Becky," exclaims Mom, "I'm so glad you phoned. I've been trying to fax you through some menus from the catering company, but your machine won't work. Dad says, have you checked your paper recently?" I don't know. Listen, Mom, and listen to this. Janice's sister-in-law knows someone who works at a balloon printing company. She says if we order 200 or more balloons, we can have the helium for free. Great. Look, I was just thinking about the wedding, actually. Why do I suddenly feel nervous? Oh, yes? Graham, turn the television down. It was just occurring to me, just as a possibility, I give a shrill laugh, that Luke and I could get married in America. America? There's a long pause. What do you mean, America? It was just a thought. You know, since Luke and I live here already. You've lived there for 1 year, Becky. Mom sounds quite shocked. This is your home? Well, yes, but I was just thinking, I say feebly. Somehow I was hoping that Mom would say, what a fantastic idea, and make it really easy. How would we organize a wedding in America? I don't know, I swallow. Maybe we could have it at a big hotel. A hotel? Mom sounds as though I've gone mad. And maybe Eleanor would help. I plow on. I'm sure she'd contribute, if it was more expensive. There's a sharp intake of breath at the other end of the phone, and I wince. Damn, I should never have mentioned Eleanor. Yes, well, we don't want her contributions, thank you. We can manage very well by ourselves. Is this Eleanor's idea, then? A hotel? Does she think we can't put on a nice wedding? No, I say hastily, it's nothing. Dad says if she's so keen on hotels, she can stay at one instead of with us. Oh gosh, I'm just making everything worse. Look, forget it. It was a silly idea. I rub my face. So, how are the plans going? We chat for a few more minutes, and I hear all about the nice man from the marquee company, and how his quote was very reasonable, and how his son was at school with cousin Alex. Isn't it a small world? By the end of our conversation, Mom sounds completely mollified, and all talk of American hotels has been forgotten. I say goodbye, turn off the phone, and exhale sharply. Right, well, that's decided. I might as well call Eleanor and tell her. No point in hanging around. I turn on my mobile again, dial 2 digits, and then stop. On the other hand, is there any point in rushing straight into a decision? I mean, you never know. Maybe Mom and Dad will talk it over this evening and change their minds. Maybe they'll come out to have a look. Maybe if they actually saw the plaza, if they saw how magical it was all going to be, how luxurious, how glamorous. I can't quite bear to give it up, not quite yet. When I get home, Luke is sitting at the table, frowning over some papers. You came home early, I say, pleased. I had some papers to go over, says Luke. Thought I'd get some peace and quiet here. Oh, right. As I get near, I see that they're all headed the Eleanor Sherman Foundation. I open my mouth to say something, then close it again. So, he says, looking up with a little smile, what did you think of the plaza? You knew about it? I stare at him. Yes, of course I did. I would have come along too if I hadn't had a lunch appointment. But, Luke, I take a deep breath, trying not to overreact. You know my mother's planning a wedding in England. It's early days, surely. You shouldn't have just fixed up a meeting like that. My mother thought it would be a good way to surprise you, so did I. Spring it on me, you mean? I retort crossly, and Luke looks at me, puzzled. Didn't you like the plaza? I thought you'd be overwhelmed. Of course I liked it, that's not the point. I know how much you've always wanted a big, magnificent wedding. When my mother offered to host a wedding at the plaza, it seemed like a gift. In fact, it was my idea to surprise you. I thought you'd be thrilled. He looks a bit deflated, and immediately guilt pours over me. It hadn't occurred to me that Luke might have been in on the whole thing. Luke, I am thrilled. It's just, I don't think Mom would be very happy us getting married in America. Can't you talk her around? It's not that easy. Your mother's been pretty high-handed, you know. High-handed? She's only trying to give us a wonderful wedding. If she really wanted to, she could give us a wonderful wedding in England, I point out. Or she could help Mom and Dad, and they could all give us a wonderful wedding. But instead, she talks about their garden as an unknown backyard. Resentment flares up inside me again as I remember Eleanor's dismissive voice. I'm sure she didn't mean just because it isn't in the middle of New York. I mean, she doesn't know anything about it. Okay, fine, says Luke shortly. You've made your point. You don't want the wedding, but if you ask me, my mother's being incredibly generous, offering to pay for a wedding at the plaza. Plus, she's arranged us a pretty lavish engagement party. Who said I want a lavish engagement party? I retort, before I can stop myself. That's a bit churlish, isn't it? Maybe I don't care about all the glitz and the glamour and the material things. Maybe my family is more important to me, and tradition, and honor. You know, Luke, we're only on this planet for a short time. Enough, says Luke in exasperation. You win. If it's really going to be a problem, forget it. You don't have to come to the engagement party if you don't want to. And we'll get married in Akshat. Happy now? I break off and rub my nose. Of course, it is a fairly amazing offer. And if I could somehow persuade Mom and Dad, maybe we'd all have the most fantastic time of our lives. It's not necessarily a question of getting married in Akshat, I say at last. It's a question of coming to the right decision. Look, you were the one saying we didn't have to rush into anything. Luke's expression softens and he gets up. I know, he sighs. Look, Becky, I'm sorry. I'm sorry too, I mumble. Oh, this is ridiculous. He puts his arms around me and kisses my forehead. All I wanted to do is give you the wedding you've always dreamed of. If you really don't want to get married at the plaza, then of course we won't. What about your mother? Well, just explain to her how you feel. Luke gazes at me for a few moments. Becky, it doesn't matter to me where we get married. It doesn't matter to me whether we have pink flowers or blue flowers. What matters to me is we're going to become a couple, and the whole world is going to know it. He sounds so sure and steady. I feel a sudden lump in my throat. That's what matters to me too, I say, and swallow hard. That's the most important thing. Okay, so let's agree. You can make the decision. Just tell me where to turn up, and I'll turn up. Okay, I smile back at him. I promise to give you at least 48 hours notice. 24 will do. He kisses me again, then points to the sideboard. That arrived, by the way, an engagement present. I look over and gape. It's a robin's egg blue box tied up with white ribbon. A present from Tiffany. Shall I open it? Go ahead. Excitedly, I untie the ribbon and open the box to find a blue glass bowl, nestling in tissue paper, and a card reading, "With best wishes from Marty and Allison Gerber." Wow, this is nice. Who are the Gerbers? I don't know. Friends of my mother's. So, will everyone who comes to the party bring us a present? I expect so. Right. Gosh, when Tom and Lucy had their engagement party, only about 3 people brought presents, and they certainly weren't from Tiffany. I stare at the bowl thoughtfully, running my finger over its gleaming surface. You know, maybe Luke does have a point. Maybe it would be churlish to throw Eleanor's generosity back in her face. Okay, what I'll do is this. I'll wait until the engagement party's over, and then I'll decide. The engagement party is at 6 o'clock the following Friday. I mean to get there early, but we have a frantic day at work with 3 big emergencies, one of which involves our most demanding celebrity client, who clearly has not got over her recent breakup, whatever she may say in People magazine. Anyway, so I don't arrive until 10 past 6, feeling a little flustered. On the plus side, I am wearing a completely fabulous black strapless dress, which fits me perfectly. Parentheses, actually, it was earmarked for Regan Hartman, one of my clients, but I'll just tell her I don't think it would suit her after all. Close parentheses. Eleanor's duplex is in a grand building on Park Avenue with the most enormous marble-floored foyer and walnut-lined elevators that always smell of expensive scent. As I step out at the 6th floor, I can hear the hubbub and tinkle of piano music. There's a queue of people waiting at the door, and I wait politely behind an elderly couple in matching fur coats. I can just see through to the apartment, which is dimly lit and already seems to be full of people. To be honest, I've never really liked Eleanor's apartment. It's all done in pale blue, with silk sofas and heavy curtains and the dullest pictures in the world hanging on the walls. I can't believe she really likes any of them. In fact, I can't believe she ever looks at any of them. Good evening. My voice interrupts my thoughts, and I realize I've reached the head of the queue. A woman in a black trouser suit holding a clipboard is giving me a professional smile. May I have your name? Rebecca Bloomwood, I say modestly, expecting her to gasp or at least light up with recognition. Bloomwood. The woman looks down the list, turns a page, and runs her finger to the bottom before looking up. I don't see it. Really? I stare at her. It must be there somewhere. I'll look again. The woman goes up to the top and runs her eyes down more slowly. No, she says at last. I'm afraid not. Sorry. She turns to a blonde woman who's just arrived. Good evening. May I take your name? But the party's from me. Vanessa Dillon. Yes, says the doorwoman, and crosses off her name with a smile. Please go in. Sergey will take your coat. Could you please step aside, miss? She asks coldly to me. You're blocking the doorway? You have to let me in. I must be on the list. I peer inside the door, hoping to see Luke or even Eleanor, but it's just a load of people I don't recognize. Please? Honestly, I'm supposed to be here. The woman in black sighs. Do you have your invitation with you? No, I don't have one. I'm the engagee. The what? She stares at me blankly. The party's for me and Luke? Oh, gosh. I peer again into the party and suddenly spot Robin, dressed in a silver beaded top and floaty skirt. Robin, I call as discreetly as I can. Robin, they won't let me in. Becky. Robin's face lights up at last. She beckons gaily with her champagne glass with one hand, while with the other she moves a pair of men in dinner jackets out of my path. Come on, belle of the ball. You see, I say desperately, I'm not gatecrashing. The party's being given for me. The blonde woman stares at me for a long time, then shrugs. Okay, you can go in. Sergey will take your coat. Do you have a gift? A gift? Has she listened to anything I've been saying? No, I don't. The woman rolls her eyes as though to say, that figures. Then turns to the next person in the queue, and I hurry in before she changes her mind. I can't stay long, says Robin as I join her. I have 3 rehearsal dinners to go to, but I particularly wanted to see you tonight because I have exciting news. A very talented event designer is going to be working on your wedding. Sheldon Lloyd, no less. Wow, I say, trying to match her tone even though I have no idea who Sheldon Lloyd is. Gosh, you're bowled over, aren't you? What I always say is, if you want to make things happen, make them happen now. So I've been speaking with Sheldon, and we've been tossing around some ideas. He thought your Sleeping Beauty concept was fabulous, by the way. Really original. She looks around and lowers her voice. His idea is, we turn the terrace room into an enchanted forest. Really? Yes. I'm so thrilled, I just have to show you. She opens her bag and pulls out a sketch, and I stare at it in disbelief. We'll have birch trees imported from Switzerland and garlands of fairy lights. You'll walk down an avenue of trees with their branches hanging over you. Pine needles will give off a wonderful scent as you walk. Flowers will magically blossom as you pass. And trained songbirds will sing overhead. What do you think about an animatronic squirrel? I pull a little face. No, I wasn't sure about that either. Okay. We'll forget the woodland creatures. She takes out a pen and scores out an entry. But otherwise, it's going to be fabulous, don't you think? Should I tell her I'm still not quite decided about whether to get married in New York? Oh, but I can't. She'll stop all the preparations on the spot. She'll go and tell Eleanor, and there'll be a terrible fuss. And the thing is, I'm sure we will end up going for the plaza in the end. Once I've worked out exactly how to win Mum round, we'd be mad not to. You know, Sheldon has worked for many Hollywood stars, says Robin, lowering her voice still further. When we meet him, you can look at his portfolio. I'm telling you, it's quite something. Really? I feel a sparkle of excitement. It all sounds fantastic. Good. She looks at her watch. Now, I have to run, but I'll be in touch. She squeezes my hand, downs her champagne, and hurries toward the door, and I stare after her, still a little dazzled. Hollywood stars, if Mom knew about that, wouldn't she see the whole thing differently? Wouldn't she realize what an amazing opportunity this is? The trouble is, I can't quite pluck up courage to bring up the subject again. I didn't even dare to tell her about this party. She'd only get all upset and say, doesn't Eleanor think we can throw a nice engagement party or something? And then I'd feel even more guilty than I already do. Oh gosh. I just need a way to introduce the idea into her head once more without her immediately getting upset. Maybe if I spoke to Janice, if I told her about the Hollywood stars. A burst of laughter nearby brings me out of my thoughts, and I realize I'm standing all alone. I take a sip of champagne and look for someone to join. The slightly weird thing is, this is supposed to be an engagement party for me and Luke, but there must be at least 100 people here, and I don't know any of them. At least, I dimly recognize the odd face here and there, but not really well enough to bound up and say hello. I try smiling at a woman coming in, but she eyes me suspiciously and pushes her way toward a group standing by the window. You know, whoever said Americans were friendlier than the British can't ever have been to New York. Danny should be here somewhere, I think, peering through the throng. I invited Aaron and Christina too, but they were both still hard at it when I left Barney's. I expect they'll be along later. Oh, come on. I've got to talk to someone. I should at least let Eleanor know I'm here. I'm just elbowing my way past a group of women in matching black Armani when I hear someone saying, "Do you know the bride?" I freeze behind a pillar, trying to pretend I'm not eavesdropping. No, does anybody? Where do they live? The West Village somewhere, but apparently they're moving to this building. I stare at the pillar in bemusement. What's that? Oh, really? I thought it was impossible to get in here. Not if you're related to Eleanor Sherman. The women laugh gaily and move off into the melee, and I stare blankly at a molded curlicue. They must have got that wrong. There's no way we're moving here. No way. I wander aimlessly around for another few minutes, find myself a glass of champagne, and try to keep a cheerful smile on my face. But try as I might, it keeps slipping. This isn't exactly how I pictured my engagement party would be. First of all, the door people try to stop me going in. Then I don't know anybody. Then the only things to eat are low-fat, high-protein cubes of fish. And even then, the waitstaff look taken aback when you actually eat them. I can't help thinking back slightly wistfully to Tom and Lucy's engagement party. It wasn't nearly as grand as this, of course. Janice made a big bowl of punch, and there was a barbecue, and Martin saying, "Are you lonesome tonight?" on the karaoke machine. But still, at least it was fun. At least I knew people. I knew more people at that party than I do at this one. Becky, why are you hiding? I look up and feel a swoosh of relief. There's Luke. Luke, at last, I say, moving forward, then gasp in joy as I see a familiar, balding, middle-aged man standing beside him, grinning cheerfully at me. Michael! I throw my arms around him and give him a big hug. Michael Ellis has to be one of my favorite people in the world. He is based in Washington, where he heads up an incredibly successful advertising agency. He's also Luke's partner in the American arm of Branding Communications, and has been like a mentor figure to him, and to me, for that matter. If it weren't for some advice Michael gave me a while ago, I'd never have moved to New York in the first place. Luke said, "You might be coming," I say, beaming at him. "You think I'd miss this?" Michael twinkles at me. "Congratulations." He raises his glass toward me. "You know, Becky, I'll bet you're regretting not taking up my offer of a job now. You could have had real prospects in Washington. Whereas instead," he shakes his head, "look at the way things have turned out for you. Great job, got your man a wedding at the plaza." "Who told you about the plaza?" I say in surprise. "Oh, just about everybody I've spoken to. Sounds like it's going to be some event." "Well," I give a bashful shrug. "Is your mom excited about it?" I take a sip of champagne to avoid having to answer. "She's not here tonight, I take it?" "No. Well, it is quite a long way." My laugh is a little shrill, and I take another sip, draining my glass. "Let me get you another," says Luke, taking my glass. "And I'll find my mother. She was asking where you were. I just asked Michael to be the best man," he adds as he walks off. Luckily, he said yes. "Really?" I say, and beam at Michael in delight. "Fantastic. I can't think of a better choice." "I'm very honored to be asked," says Michael, "unless you want me to marry you, of course. I'm a bit rusty, but I could probably remember the words." "Really?" I say in surprise. "Are you secretly a minister as well as everything else?" "No," he throws back his head and laughs. "But a few years back, some friends wanted me to marry them. I pulled some strings and got registered as an officiant." "Well, I think you'd make a great minister, Father Michael. People would flock to your church." "An atheist minister?" Michael raises his eyebrows. "I guess I wouldn't be the first." He takes a sip of champagne. "So, how's the shopping business?" "It's great, thanks," I beam at him. "You know, I recommend you to everyone I meet. You need clothes, go to Becky Bloomwood at Barney's. I tell busboys, businessmen, random people I meet on the street." I wondered why I kept getting all these strange people through. I smile at him. "Seriously, I wanted to ask a small favor." Michael lowers his voice slightly. "I'd be grateful if you could help out my daughter Lucy. She just broke up with a guy, and I think she's going through a patch of lacking self-confidence. I told her I knew who could fix her up." "Absolutely," I say, feeling touched. "I'd be glad to help." "You won't bankrupt her, though, because she's only on a lawyer's salary." "I'll try not to," I say, laughing. "How about you?" "You think I need help?" "To be honest, you look pretty good already." I gesture to his immaculate dark gray suit, which I'm certain didn't give him much change out of $3,000. "I always dress up when I know I'm going to be seeing the beautiful people," says Michael. He looks around the party with an amused expression, and I follow his gaze. A nearby group of 6 middle-aged women are talking at each other animatedly, seemingly without taking breath. Are these your friends? Not really, I admit. I don't know many people here. I guessed as much. He gives me a quizzical smile and takes a sip of champagne. So, how are you getting along with your future mother-in-law? His expression is so innocent. I want to laugh. Oh, like a house on fire, I say, grinning. Can't you tell? What are you talking about? Says Luke, suddenly appearing at my shoulder. He hands me a full glass of champagne and I shoot a glance at Michael. We were just talking about wedding plans, says Michael casually. Have you decided on a honeymoon location yet? We haven't really talked about it. I look at Luke, but I've had some ideas. We need to go somewhere really nice and hot and glamorous and somewhere I've never been before. You know, I'm not sure I'll be able to fit in much of a honeymoon, says Luke with a small frown. We've just taken on Northwest, and that means we may be looking at expanding again. So we might have to make do with a long weekend. A long weekend? I stare at him in dismay. That's not a honeymoon. Luke, says Michael reprovingly, that won't do. You have to take your wife on a nice honeymoon. As best man, I insist. Where have you never been, Becky? Venice, Rome, India, Africa? I haven't been to any of them. I see. Michael raises his eyebrows. This could turn out to be some honeymoon. Everyone has seen the world except me. I never even had a gap year. I never did Australia or Thailand. Neither did I, says Luke, shrugging. I haven't done anything. You know, Susan's mother's best friend in the whole world is a Bolivian peasant. I look at Luke impressively. They ground maize together on the plains of the Llanos. Looks like it's Bolivia, says Michael to Luke. You want to grind maize on our honeymoon? I just think maybe we should broaden our horizons a bit. Like, go backpacking, maybe. Becky, are you aware of the concept of backpacking? Says Luke mildly. All your possessions in one rucksack, which you have to carry, not FedEx. I could do that, I say indignantly, easily, and we'd meet loads of really interesting people. I know interesting people already. You know bankers and PR people. Do you know any Bolivian peasants? Do you know any homeless people? I can't say I do, says Luke. Do you? Well, no, I admit, after a pause, but that's not the point. We should. Okay, Becky, says Luke, lifting a hand. I have a solution. You organize the honeymoon anywhere you want, as long as it doesn't take more than 2 weeks. Really? I gape at him. Are you serious? I'm serious. You're right, we can't get married and not have a proper honeymoon. He smiles at me. Surprise me. Well, okay, I will. I take a sip of champagne, feeling all bubbly with excitement. How cool is this? I get to choose the honeymoon. Maybe we should go to an amazing spot in Thailand or something, or some spectacular safari. Speaking of homeless, says Luke to Michael, we'll be out on the streets in September. Really, says Michael, what happened? The lease on our apartment is up and the owner's selling everyone out. Oh, I say, suddenly diverted from pleasant visions of me and Luke standing on top of one of the pyramids. That reminds me. Luke, I heard this really odd conversation just now. Some people were saying that we were going to move to this building. Where did they get that from? It's a possibility, says Luke. What? I stared at him blankly. What do you mean it's a possibility? Have you gone mad? Why not? I lowered my voice a little. Do you really think I want to live in this stuffy building full of horrible old women who look at you as though you smell? Becky, interrupts Michael, jerking his head meaningfully. It's true, I turned to him. Not one of the people who lives in this building is nice. I've met them, and they're all absolutely... Abruptly, I halt as I realize what Michael's trying to tell me. Except for Luke's mother, I add, trying to sound as natural as possible. Of course. Good evening, Rebecca, comes a chilly voice behind me, and I stand up, cheeks flaming. There she is, standing behind me, wearing a long white Grecian-style dress that falls in pleats to the ground. She's so thin and pale, she looks just like one of her own pillars. Hello, Eleanor, I say politely. You look lovely. I'm sorry I was a little late. Rebecca, she replies and offers me a cheek. I hope you've been circulating, not just sitting here with Luke. Kind of. This is a good opportunity for you to meet some important people, she says. The president of this building, for example. Right, I nod. Well, or maybe. This is probably not the moment to tell her that there's no way in a million years I'm moving to this building. I'll introduce you to her later, but now I'm about to make the toast, she says. If you would both come over to the podium. Excellent, I say, trying to sound enthusiastic, and take a gulp of champagne. Mother, you've met Michael, says Luke. Indeed, says Eleanor with a gracious smile. How do you do? Very well, thank you, says Michael pleasantly. I intended to come to the launch of your foundation, but unfortunately couldn't make it up from Washington. I hear it went very well, though. It did. Thank you. And now another happy occasion. He gestures around the room. I was just saying to Luke how lucky he was to have landed such a beautiful, talented, accomplished girl as Becky. Indeed. Eleanor's smile freezes slightly. But you must feel the same way. There's silence. Of course, says Eleanor at last. She extends her hand and, after a tiny hesitation, places it on my shoulder. Oh, gosh. Her fingers are all cold. It's like being touched by the Ice Queen. I glance at Luke, and he's glowing with pleasure. So, the toast, I say brightly, lead the way. See you later, Michael, says Luke. Have a good one, replies Michael, and gives me the tiniest of winks. Luke, he adds more quietly as she moves away. On the subject of your mother's charity, I'd like to have a word later. Right, says Luke after a pause. Fine. Is it my imagination, or does he look slightly defensive? But do the toast first, says Michael pleasantly. We're not here to talk business. As I walk through the room with Luke and Eleanor, I can see people starting to turn and murmur. A little podium has been set up at one end of the room, and as we step up onto it, I start to feel a little nervous for the first time. Silence has fallen around the room, and the entire assembled gathering is looking at us. 200 eyes, all giving me the Manhattan once-over. Trying to stay unself-conscious, I search among the crowd for faces I recognize. But apart from Michael at the back, there isn't a single one. I keep smiling, but inside I feel a bit low. Where are my friends? I know Christine and Aaron are on their way, but where's Danny? He promised he was going to come. Ladies and gentlemen, says Eleanor, graciously welcome. It gives me enormous pleasure to welcome you here tonight on this happy occasion, particularly Marcia Fox, president of this building, and Guinevere von... I don't care about your stupid list, comes a high-pitched voice from the door, and a couple of heads at the back turn to look. Von Landenberg, associate of the Eleanor Sherman Foundation, says Eleanor, her jaw growing more rigid. Let me in, you stupid cow. There's a scuffling sound and a small scream, and the whole room turns to see what's going on. Get your hands off me. I'm pregnant, okay? If anything happens, I'll sue. I don't believe it. I shriek in delight and jump down off the podium. Suze! Bex! Suze appears through the door, looking tanned and healthy, with beads in her hair and a sizable bump showing through her dress. Surprise! Chapter 7. We thought we'd surprise you, says Suze, after the fuss has died down, and Eleanor has made her toast, in which she mentions me and Luke once, and the Eleanor Sherman Foundation 6 times. Like a last bit of our honeymoon. So we turned up at your flat, and I was, as ever, running perfectly on time, puts in Danny, giving me an apologetic grin. So Danny said, why don't we come along to the party and give you a bit of a shock? It's so great to see you. I give her an affectionate hug. And Tarquin. We all glance toward Tarquin, who's been surrounded by a group of avidly interested New York ladies. Do you live in a castle? I can hear one of them saying. Well, yes, actually I do. Do you know Prince Charles? Says another, goggling. We've played polo once or twice. Tarquin looks around, desperate to escape. You have to meet my daughter, says one of the ladies, putting a clamp-like arm round his shoulders. She loves England. She visited Hampton Court 6 times. He is spectacular, says a low voice in my ear, and I look round to see Danny gazing over my shoulder at Tarquin. Utterly spectacular. Is he a model? Is he a what? I mean, this story about him being a farmer. Danny drags on his cigarette. It's bullshit, right? You think Tarquin should be a model? I can't help a snort of laughter erupting through me. What? Says Danny defensively. He has a fantastic look. I could design a whole collection around him. Prince Charles meets Rupert Everett meets... Danny, you do know he's straight. Of course I know he's straight. What do you take me for? Danny gives a thoughtful pause. But he went to English boarding school, right? Danny. I give him a shove and look up. Hi, Tarquin, you managed to get away. Hello, says Tarquin, looking a bit harassed. Suze, darling, have you given Becky the stuff from her mother? Oh, it's back at the hotel, says Suze and turns to me. Bex, we dropped in on your mom and dad on the way to the airport. They are so obsessed, she giggles. They can't talk about anything but the wedding. I'm not surprised, says Danny. Sounds like it's going to be fairly amazing. Catherine Zeta-Jones, eat your heart out. Catherine Zeta-Jones, says Suze interestedly. What do you mean? I feel my body stiffen all over. Shit. Think. Danny, I say casually. I think the editor of Women's Wear Daily is over there. Really? Where? Danny's head swivels round. I'll be back in a second. He disappears off into the party, and I subside in relief. When we were there, they were having this huge argument about how big the marquee should be, says Suze with another giggle. They made us sit on the lawn, pretending to be guests. I don't want to hear about this. I take a gulp of champagne and try to think of another topic. Have you told Becky the other thing that happened? Says Tarquin, looking suddenly grave. No. Not yet, says Suze guiltily, and Tarquin gives a deep, solemn sigh. Becky, Suze has something she needs to confess. That's right. Suze bites her lip and looks abashed. We were at your parents' house, and I asked to look at your mom's wedding dress, so we were all admiring it, and I was holding a cup of coffee. She hangs her head, and then, I don't know how it happened, but I spilled my coffee on the dress. I stare at her incredulously. On the dress? Are you serious? We offered to clean it, of course, says Tarquin, but I'm not sure it will be wearable. We're so incredibly sorry, Becky, and we'll pay for another dress, of course. He looks at his empty glass. Can I get anyone another drink? So the dress is ruined? I say, just to be sure. Yes, and it wasn't easy, I can tell you, says Suze as soon as Tarquin is out of earshot. The first time I tried, your mom whisked it away just in time. Then she started getting all worried and saying she'd better put it away. I had to practically throw my coffee cup at it, just as she was packing it up. And even then, it only just caught the train. Of course, your mom hates me now, she adds gloomily. I shouldn't think I'll get invited to the wedding. Oh, Suze, she doesn't really, and thank you so much. You're a complete star. I honestly didn't think you'd manage it. Well, I couldn't let you look like a lamb cutlet, could I? Suze grins. The weird thing is, in her wedding pictures, your mom looks really lovely in it. But in real life, she pulls a little face. Exactly. Oh, Suze, I'm so glad you're here. Impulsively, I give her a hug. I thought you'd be all married. What's being married like, anyway? Kind of the same, says Suze after a pause, except we have more plates. I feel it tapping on my shoulder and look up to see a red-haired woman wearing a pale silk trouser suit. Laura Redburn Seymour, she says, extending her hand. My husband and I have to go, but I just wanted to say I just heard about your wedding plans. I got married in exactly the same place 15 years ago, and let me tell you, when you walk down that aisle, there's no feeling like it. She clasps her hands and smiles at her husband, who looks exactly like Clark Kent. Gosh, I say, well, thank you. Were you brought up in Knockshot then? Asked Suze cheerfully. Well, that's a coincidence. Oh, fuck. I'm sorry, says Laura Redburn Seymour. Oxshot, says Suze, you know. Ox? What ox? Laura Redburn Seymour looks confusedly at her husband. We don't believe in hunting, says Clark Kent, a little coldly. Good evening, and congratulations again, he adds to me. As the two walk off, Sue stares at me in puzzlement. Bex, did that make any sense? I rub my nose, playing for time. I really don't know why, but I have a strong feeling that I don't want to tell Suze about the plaza. Okay, I do know why. It's because I know exactly what she'll say. Yes, I say at last, I think it did, kind of. No, it didn't. She didn't get married in Oxshot. Why did she think you would be walking up the same aisle as her? Well, they're American. Nothing they say makes sense, so, wedding dress shopping. Shall we go tomorrow? Oh, definitely, says Suze, her brow immediately unfurling. Where shall we go? Does Barney's have a bridal department? Thank goodness Suze is so sweet and unsuspicious. Yes, it does, I say. I've had a quick look, but I haven't tried anything on yet. The only thing is I haven't got an appointment, and it's a Saturday tomorrow. I wrinkle my brow. We could try Vera Wang, but that'll probably be all booked up. I want to go baby shopping as well. I've got a list. I've bought a couple of things, I say, looking fondly at her bump. Just little presents. I want a really nice mobile. Don't worry, I've got you one of those. And some really cute little outfits. Bex, you shouldn't have. There is a sale on at Baby Gap, I say defensively. Excuse me, interrupts the voice, and we both look up to see a lady in black and pearls approaching. I couldn't help overhearing your conversation just now. My name is Cynthia Harrison. I'm a great friend of Eleanor's, and also of Robin, your wedding planner. You're in very good hands there. Oh, right, I say politely. That's nice to hear. If you're looking for a wedding dress, may I invite you both along to my new bridal boutique dream dress? Cynthia Harrison beams at me. I've been selling wedding dresses for 20 years, and this very week I've opened a store on Madison Avenue. We have a huge selection of designer gowns, shoes, and accessories, personal service in a luxurious environment. All your bridal needs catered to, however great or small. She stops rather abruptly, as though she's been reading off a card. Well, okay. We'll come tomorrow. Shall we say 11 o'clock, suggests Cynthia. And I glance at Suze, who nods. 11 it is. Thank you very much. As Cynthia Harrison departs, I grin at Suze excitedly, but she's peering over at the other side of the room. What's up with Luke, she says. What do you mean? I turn round and stare. Luke and Michael are in the corner of the room, away from everyone else. It looks as though they're arguing. As I watch, Luke raises his voice defensively, and I catch the words, the bigger picture, for gosh sakes. What are they talking about, says Suze. I've got no idea. I strain as hard as I can, but I can only hear the odd phrase. Simply don't feel appropriate, Michael is saying. Short term, feel it's entirely appropriate. Luke looks really rattled. Wrong impression, abusing your position. I had enough of this. I watch in dismay as Luke stalks off out of the room. Michael is completely taken aback by his reaction. For a moment, he's stock still. Then he reaches for his glass and takes a slug of whiskey. I can't believe it. I've never known Luke and Michael to have a crossword before. I mean, Luke adores Michael. He practically sees him as a father figure. What on earth can be going on? I'll be back in a minute, I murmur to Suze, and hurry as discreetly as possible over to where Michael is still standing, staring into space. What was all that about? I demand as soon as I reach him. Why were you and Luke fighting? Michael looks up, startled, then quickly composes his features into a smile. Just a little business disagreement, he says. Nothing to worry about. So, have you decided on a honeymoon location yet? Michael, come on, it's me. Tell me what's going on. I lower my voice. What did you mean? Luke's abusing his position. What's happened? There's a long pause, and I can see Michael weighing out whether or not to tell me. Did you know, he says at last, that at least one member of staff from Brandon Communications has been redeployed to work for the Eleanor Sherman Foundation. What? I stared at him in shock. Are you serious? I've recently discovered that a new assistant at the company has been assigned to work for Luke's mother. Brandon Communications is still paying her salary, but essentially she's Eleanor's full-time lackey. Naturally, she's unhappy about the situation. Michael sighs. All I wanted to do was raise the point, but Luke's very defensive. He hasn't said anything about this to me, I say incredulously. He hasn't said anything about it to anybody. I only found out because it so happens that this assistant knows my daughter and felt she could call me up. Michael lowers his voice. The real danger is that she might complain to the investors. Then Luke would be in trouble. It's his mother, I say at last. You know what a hold she's got over him. He'll do anything to impress her. I know, says Michael, and I can understand that. Everyone has their own hang-ups. He looks at his watch. I have to go, I'm afraid. You can't leave, not without talking to him again. I'm not sure that would do any good right now. Michael looks at me kindly. Becky, don't let this spoil your evening. And don't go and give Luke a hard time. It's obviously a very sensitive topic. He squeezes my arm. I'm sure it'll all work out. I won't, I promise. I force myself to smile brightly. And thanks for coming, Michael. It meant a lot to us, both of us. I give him a warm hug and watch as he walks away. And I'm going to pause for right now and then finish this chapter later.